people understand what it really means?
Sure. First of all, I think it was about people thinking that diversity, equity, and inclusion is just about numbers.
Yeah.
It's really just about tapping into people's different perspectives
Yeah.
and allowing people to be who they are in terms of diversity, right? And so that challenge for me, where we have to kind of transfigure people's minds from thinking that D&I is just about equity, that it's just about that race, but it's actually much broader than that.
Yes.
That it allows people spaces of inclusion where they feel like they're part of, rather than, excluded from certain things.
Yes.
And of course, I think secondly, whilst that belief is there, I think it's important that you kind of get leadership buy-in. If leaders don't buy into why diversity, equity, and inclusion exists,
Yes.
that poses a limitation as soon as you try and cascade initiatives. And so they need to understand what the business case is for it before anything else, because other people won't actually buy into it.
Yeah.
And I think probably thirdly and most importantly for me, the work around diversity, equity, and inclusion is very sensitive.
Yeah.
That it's one thing for us to teach people about the concepts.
Yes.
But if we fail to change people's hearts and minds around it, they're not going to be able to live it.
Yes.
It's just going to sit in the head. But I think our jobs are, yes, we teach them conceptually from a head level what these things mean. But the challenge is, how do we get them to relate to these things from a heart point of view? Because once we get into the heart, people then tend to it's easy to make change because they believe in it from an emotive standpoint and not just from the head.
I love how you answered that, because it then gives birth to this question, right? Are strategies that are being implemented in terms of D&I, are they effective in workplaces, or do you feel that there's more work that needs to be put in when it comes to D&I?
Another good question. I think organizations vary. There are those that are doing it well.
Yes.
And there are those that are not. And what I find is that people are trying to drive D&I initiatives because there's a hype around it.
Yeah.
It's become so relevant, right?
Yes.
And for me, that's a problem, because D&I has got to be able to support the business strategy first and foremost. You're not just going to have D&I in isolation of what the business is driving. So what is the actual business case? I mean, if I look at us at Massmart, we're a retailer.
Yes.
And our customer base is incredibly diverse.
Yes.
So it makes sense for us to
100%.
kind of imbue and embed diversity in our organization, because if we're reflective of our customer base, they come back and they also refer more customers to come in because they see themselves within our organization.
Yes.
So I think that data point is very important.
Yeah.
Leading me to the second bit that says people just want to tailor initiatives without understanding the data behind it.
Yes.
First of all, do you have diversity problems? What does data tell you? I think for me, that's the first point, because you can't drive initiatives in the absence of the existing and what data tells you.
Okay, got
so
you.
there are a myriad of data sets that you need to be looking at that will inform the kind of initiatives that you're driving. It's not a blanket approach. What works for Massmart in terms of the initiatives that we're driving is bedded down based on what our employees are telling us, what our landscape looks at as an organization. So it's not a copy and paste. It's really understanding where the organization is going. It's really understanding what are the internal dynamics of your employees internally. What do the demographic landscape look like? Do your people feel like they're included?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? In certain spaces, do they feel like they're safe to be able to speak their minds and their voices and all of that? Also, do people still look at